This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine master guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. This is Hal Blood, I'm your host. Sitting here with me is Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And Lee Libby.
Hello.
And our special guest today is the Big Woods CEO, Chris Dalty, a.k.a. Big Woody.
Hello.
Big Woody.
All right.
Special guest.
The big wigs are in town today.
Yeah, we're over
We got
here.
to be on our best behavior.
Yeah.
We're over in
CEO.
Lee's camp over here in Rangeley, and Chris drove up from Rhode Island for it, so this ought to be pretty interesting. Today we're going to do a little, we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about moose hunting, because that's what we do just before deer season, and kind of fits in because it helps us get ready for deer season, you know, get the mindset for hunting big game, plus get our bodies in shape a little bit, running around chasing after moose and calling them and all that, putting on the miles. So we hunted 2 different moose seasons here and had some good success. We wanted to talk a little bit about that and share some stories. So
did you moose hunt, Hal?
yeah, I did moose hunt. I took a young gal from southern Maine up to Zone 1 and with her parents, and Lee was in camp. He was guiding a client for Joe, and the first morning, though, not the morning, but the first day, the young girl shot a beautiful 55-inch bull, big old bull with big bases, big massive thing, and she shot it with we were using a Remington Model 7. It's a new model they're coming out with for next year. I can't remember the name of it, but it's stainless and composite stock. And she shot that in .308 with the Barnes Vortex. I think it's a really great bullet for moose hunting. It's all a solid copper. She shot it 80 yards offhand. It took about 20 steps, maybe less, dropped dead. 12 years old. Did a good job.
Yeah.
All right, that's all Hal has to say about moose hunting.
Yeah. Well, you guys can take over now.
So I have a question. Has Lee paid up yet?
What?
No, matter of fact, he hasn't.
Yeah.
So-
I know
We're
he's
going out to
buying Hal
dinner tonight,
lunch.
so he can.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't want to
yeah.
mention the bet, but
What was the bet? I didn't hear it.
we had a little guides bet.
Yeah.
I think Joe came up with it, huh, Joe?
I came up with it, you know. It's always fun to have a little competition.
Well, let's
It's
share
not fair.
So-
It's not fair. It's not fair because
It's not fair. He sounds like a liberal. It just isn't fair.
I'll stop. Wow.
Come on, why isn't it fair?
Well, because it's, obviously the 12-year-old girl was a good shot, but what if your client's not that great of a shot?
Well,
You have to get him closer.
Yeah, but don't
Yeah.
you always talk about knowing
exactly
your clients?
right.
Yeah, I didn't know
You
it.
got to
Joe,
know your clients. And you
Yeah.
got to get them close enough in their capability.
Joe booked it, lied about how good he was, and said it's a great client.
You're such a liar. You know he was a good hunter and a
Yeah,
good
he
shot.
was a good client, a good guy. But yeah, we had to get him close.
Yeah.
That one he killed was less than 10 yards.
Yeah.
Well, when it
Well,
goes,
that makes for a better hunt, too.
Yeah, it was a good
yeah,
one.
it was an exciting hunt for him. But it goes to show you that, you know, he said right up he wasn't used to shooting long range.
Yeah.
You know, he's just doesn't do it. So
You had to define what long
That
range
was
is,
my
though, 'cause
fault.
Long range, 200
he
yards.
said he shoots
with
20
an-
yards.
Yeah. No,
Wow.
so yes and no. It was my fault because in one in one conversation, he was a prairie dog hunter and was shooting prairie dogs at 300 yards.
Yeah.
What I failed to ask was if it was offhand or rest, and it was with a tripod on a bench. I didn't get that. In another conversation after the first bull walked off was the offhand shot. The longest offhand shot he had made was with a shotgun on a buck at about 25 yards. So in my world, I'm the most optimistic person I know. All I heard was 300 yards.
Yeah.
So I was good. But no, and it's I don't care how good you are. That's an intimidating thing. And then Hal didn't help because on the second moose, my binoculars were fogged up, so I couldn't see. So I left him in the Ram Charger. So I said to Hal, I says, "Hey, how big's that moose standing down there in the road?" And the old man looks back and he goes, "Gee, Slip, that's a great big bastard." I'm thinking to myself, you had to say that.
Yeah.
You had to say it.
Then I can see Libby coming unglued.
Oh, unhinged. Because I'm thinking $100. This is worth $100.
Oh, is that what the bet was for?
Yeah.
Now, there were 6 of us in it, so
100. Yeah, so we'd
Well,
win
let's.
100.
No, not everybody knows what the bet was. So what is the bet?
highest scoring bowl.
High scoring bowl.
Yeah.
Highest
Yeah.
scoring bull. We 6 of us put in $20. Well, we didn't put it in, but we bet it $20.
So that's
apiece.
$120 in my world.
Yeah.
Well, it's a
That'll be a nice dinner
20 of
tonight.
it-
Are we
20
going
of
to get
it's
into the
mine.
math here?
yeah. It's
Can you
$100.
tell who runs the company?
So it's 120 minus the 20 that you didn't lose.
It's
I see.
$100.
All right.
Anyway,
Okay.
so Hal was the big winner, and
Yeah. And he did it on purpose.
and on. So to back up a little bit is I had a hunt in zone 4. Hal and Lee were up in zone 1, and then I had 2 other hunters plus Eric, who guides with me over in zone 5. So that was the 6 of us. So we were kind of spread out, but we communicated with satellite messengers, and the message from Hal was, I just won the bet. I got the king of the boulevard. Heavy horns. And when I saw that, I was like, well, we got the whole week. A lot can happen.
Right.
Yeah, it was quite a set of horns, really.
Yeah.
But, you know,
about as big a base as I ever seen. You barely get your hands around the bases on that thing.
The Boulevard's got some good genetics.
Well,
Good genetics.
that's someplace, I'll tell you. It really is. But, you know, to me, it was one of the best moose seasons weather-wise that we've had in a while. I thought starting out the first day was 22 degrees.
oh, yeah, that
where
was
we were.
perfect. Yeah.
To get a start like that. The middle of the week wasn't ideal, but it wasn't bad.
No, it wasn't. Just a little wet. When I came back Wednesday night and everything I owned was floating.
Yeah, that's right.
that-
I'm
That
like,
boils down to poor camp setup.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, who set up
They're
the tent?
picking on you today.
Ryan,
yeah.
Ryan set up the tent.
But
Just compared to last year, we started off the week last year with 85 degrees.
Oh,
yeah, that was brutal. 3 days
Yeah,
of
3
in
days.
the 80s.
Right.
But I thought weather-wise it was good, and you know, response-wise and everything, it was a good season. It was a little bit early, I think, from what you were saying, Hal, to the start of it. It's almost as early as it can be.
Yeah, the way it fell on the calendar, it was the whole season was in September, so it's kind of early. I think next year it is again too. But
Anybody get a bull with any velvet on it?
I don't think so. No. I
One
don't
year we
think there
got
was
one
any
with,
velvet.
with a lot of velvet on it. Remember one of the clients, Rick?
yeah,
Hanging off nice.
somebody said they saw one though, like a little one with velvet still on.
Oh,
Was it
Yep.
Ryan?
might have been Ryan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew
Yeah, I
somebody
remember
had
that.
said they saw one. A little small one was still had velvet.
That one that Don shot was red. Like that velvet hadn't been off long. You know, when that was wet and he was coming in, I just remember them horns looking
Yeah.
really red.
Yeah.
They were that. I noticed that in the pictures.
Yeah.
That was a nice looking bull. He had unique antlers.
Oh yeah.
Another couple of
That
years,
was
and
a
he would have
good-
really been.
That was a good tag team by me and Hal. That bull didn't stand a chance.
No, he loved me.
He did love you. Long time.
Yeah.
Hal does have an amorous cow call.
Yeah, and that wine with that wine he's got at the end there, just
Yeah, I did the wine, Joe. Remember that from a couple years ago?
I actually, I'll play it here in just a little bit, but I actually recorded on that hunt, on the September hunt, when my hunter shot. We were videoing, and I got the cow on video probably 30, 35 yards away with the bull, and she was moaning. And it's pretty cool getting a good recording like that.
Yeah.
It came out pretty good.
Does it sound like me?
Sounds better than you, actually.
Exactly like you.
Why don't you do it for us, Al? Let's hear it.
That's
You know that long.
I want to hear the cow call. If he's going to sit here and say how good it is, let's hear it.
let's get in the cow calling contest,
You
Jonah.
gotta hang on. I gotta
I've
warm
been-
up here.
Jenna Parks will tell you I have the sexiest cow call.
Yeah,
in
she
the
said
world.
she told me that yesterday when I saw her.
All right, here we go. Oh, here he comes.
Here he
There he
comes.
goes.
Yeah, I've heard that work more
Pretty
than once.
nasally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. Whenever I first do my first cow call of the morning, I got to get my throat clear.
Oh,
And I did it one time, and my throat wasn't clear, and my hunter looks at me. He goes, "You sounded like Chewbacca," and I couldn't stop laughing. I had to wait 10 minutes to call again because I couldn't stop laughing.
yeah. Those first
But-
ones in the morning are usually a little rough, but
Yeah, you got to get that snore and phlegm up.
yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
I used that the Alaskan,
Oh yeah, last
Whatever.
call, megaphone.
whatever you want to call it.
The fiberglass one?
Yep.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
Yeah.
I liked the tone of it and everything. It carried really nicely. It was it worked good, but
I never had a season where so many cows wanted to. I call it picking when you're calling, you're cow calling, and the bull answers you, and then they're with a cow, and that cow immediately starts right in, and she starts moaning, trying to keep him there. Almost every bull this season. I lost 2 bulls last Saturday morning, beautiful morning here in Zone 7. And both times, and one of those bulls turned and came halfway back, and that cow came with him and got between us
Yeah.
and was pushing him, back. And that's fun because when you get a client with you and you're getting frustrated because she won't stop and you're fighting with her and you're trying to lure him, and then all of a sudden he turns and you can hear when he's grunting at you and when he's not grunting at you, and you're like, oh, he's turned. Oh, he's getting closer. And then she starts in again. And it was a good season. They were very vocal. Both seasons this year.
Yeah.
unfortunately, I only get about half of it. My hearing's not quite what it used to be, like when I was 18.
Yeah.
And so Jonah was with me, and he's got supersonic hearing. I mean, he can, and I know it's better than most because other people that are with us, they won't hear it, and he's gotten really good because he never moose hunted before until the last couple of years, and he's getting good at knowing what to listen for. And
Yeah, that's a huge point, though, because when I first started going moose hunt with you guys, I didn't hear. Like, I'd be with the client, be like, I didn't hear that bull. But over time, you learn what to listen for, and it really helps you in deer hunting too, I think. The tones and the sounds that you're concentrating on, listening for, they think you have superhuman hearing. You really don't. You just
Know what to listen for.
you know what to listen for, and you can drown out the leaves rustling and things. And it's a learned ability. You can do it.
I've noticed I have a much more difficult time with the grunts because it's a lower tone than the cows. The cows I hear a lot better, than the grunts, but I can hear sticks cracking and breaking better than all of it. That seems to stand out for me.
Yeah.
And which is always a good sign because they're
Grunts
coming.
are low and soft for a big animal, though, aren't they? They're low and soft.
yeah.
You really got to listen for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fun because you can almost tell, it's funny when me and Hal look at each other and say, yeah, that's not a very big one. And we haven't even seen
their
it
voices,
yet,
you can
but
tell.
we can tell
I
by their
don't
voice,
know that their grunts match their. I used to
No.
always think that, but
Yeah.
the one that we ended up killing in Zone 4, the way he was barking at us, you would have thought he was the biggest out there.
Really?
And that ended up being kind of a cool story. I guess I can go into it now. So my hunter was a guy that I had back in 2012. And his wife had a permit then. He was a sub. And he had a moose hunt in Zone 7 in 2009. So he's an out-of-stater that this is his third hunt since 2009. So I always tell people that are hesitant to put in. They don't think they have a chance. It really makes me feel bad when I hear like when Lee doesn't get picked again after 34 years or whatever. Because
I'm 29. Yeah.
So you're up there too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll go next year.
Yeah.
Well, you're a non-resident too, so maybe
Yeah,
not.
that's it. My kid's gonna shoot it if we get one anyway. So
Good.
yeah.
So he's an experienced hunter. He's from New York, and he's got a farm there, and really has like 100 and big bucks, 150, 160 class bucks that he's got running around his place. So he's definitely not inexperienced, and his life story is so interesting and what he's been through. And I'm not going to go through all the details because there's so much to it, but the quick part of it is he's been the victim of accidental shootings in the woods twice. He's been trapped under a backhoe, had to be taken off with a crane. He's fallen from a tree stand. He was in a construction accident and lost his leg below the knee. And so that was that happened since his last hunt. And so that was, I think, 4 years ago, he said. So this hunt was important to him because he just had a new procedure that's being done in Australia. He was the 17th American to have this done, and it's an implant where they basically drill out your tibia and put your leg in there. Yeah. Not the socket, but it goes right. So it's like an extension of your bone. So that's why it's so good, because if you think about it, when they do those sockets and it's your soft tissue and you've got like the big socket of the prosthetic, that's all on your soft tissue and not on your bone. Whereas what he has, it's actually the weight's coming down on his bone. So it's way better. And, it was a big test for him. He had that implant done 6 or 7 months ago. And he really, before the hunt, I talked to him a lot and, what do you think you can do for walking? And he said, well, I think, I can do at least 4 or 5 miles a day. And I said, well, we can make that work, but he had never walked in the woods. Like, it's different when you're uneven ground and over logs and everything. So the first few days we did a lot of walking. In fact, we ended up killing on Friday, and I had kept track of our mileage every day, and we did over 30 miles that week. So we were averaging over 6 miles a day. And we did a lot of, in those zones up there, of course, there's a lot of winter roads. So you can do a lot of even ground walking. It's just kind of high grass and maybe muddy. But that was the bulk of it. We really didn't spend a lot of time in the woods. So on the first morning, we're going into to the spot where we're going to hunt for the day. And it was 1 minute after legal shooting time. And this beautiful bull steps out in the road in front of us. And he gets out of the truck and puts his gun on it. Should I shoot him? I said, I really, for coming all that way and wanting to test his leg and everything, it was kind of you don't want to shoot one like that.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah. So I'm downplaying the bull. I definitely didn't want to overestimate. I'm going, yeah, he's a high 40s, he's a nice looking bull, but geez, he's pretty nice. And this is going back and forth for a minute, and the bull's standing there, and he turns to walk away, and of course from the back they always look bigger anyway. And I said, yeah, he's over 50. We watched him walk away. And he was great with that. It was no problem, no regrets. Passed a couple more small ones during the week, and Wednesday morning we had the setup, the one that we had on film that came in so close, which it wasn't a bad bull, but it was not a real big bull, but it was a great experience. And
how close was that? Just for camera's sake, like a lot of people have seen it now, but how close to the camera?
10 yards, I guess.
The one that Joel and I got last year for with his wife was 10 yards, and that in the camera is different than when it's close like that.
Well, Jonah was running the camera. I was back behind him about 40 or 50 yards calling. Mm-hmm. We had heard him, and he was coming, and he'd hang up, and I would rake a little bit, and he would, respond back. And so I went back up behind them. I was with them at that time when I went back behind them, and I started raking a little bit harder. That's what brought him out. And I actually, from where I was, I couldn't see how close the moose was to him, and didn't even realize, because my view was blocked, didn't even realize it was in front of him until he was standing right there, and I saw one of his paddles turn through the woods. and he started walking away, and I called one last time. Well, that was when Jonah was on the camera, and he said, "Just stop calling." He was talking to himself.
You can hear that on the video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun, though. I mean, that's what a lot of guys come for. They just want that interaction, and to see that when the bulls come out. And so we went on through the week, called in another small one the next morning, and found a really nice spot Thursday afternoon, called like a 30-something inch in right last light on Thursday. And so we said, well, we'll come back here in the morning. It was a nice spot. It was in an area that anyone that cares anything about their vehicle would never go. Altered in so hard, which is great. You got the place to yourself. I think Hal might have been to that spot once or twice in the past.
Good chance of it if it's up north.
But we went in there and we called. We started off calling, and we got responses pretty quick. I couldn't hear any of them at first. Jonah was relaying the information at first, and so it went on for quite a while, and there was a couple different bulls responding and cows. They were all around us, really. So there was a cow and a bull in particular to our left that, we could always get them to fire up again. If they were quiet for a while, I would rake a little bit, and they would always respond. But they seemed like they were drifting away, so we decided the only thing to do was to go after them. And that doesn't always work. Sometimes you can get in on them, but sometimes they'll wind you. But the wind was right. We went in there, and we got real close to him. I mean, we were probably 150, 200 yards off the winter road when we got back to him. And that was when he was getting really pissed off and barking, but he would not come out in the open. So we closed it a little more and went right in on him. And it was and the only reason I know exactly how long it was because we were taking video the whole time, but it was like a 12-minute standoff where he was really close, but the only thing you could see was just the top of his head and one palm. He stared at us for 12 minutes, never, didn't move. And the cow was right in front of him, and she finally moved, and he moved with her. And so presented a shot. So he shot it. First he looked at me and he said, "You sure you want to pack this out of here?" I said, "Yeah, I'll pack it out of here, kill him." And so he shot him, and he made a real good shot. Shot twice. He shot when it was running away too, but he hit it right in the boiler room with the first one. And we went up and, we packed it out and everything. And it wasn't until that night when I got home and I was watching the video from Wednesday, and I'm looking at it, and I said, I pulled my phone out and looked at the picture of the bull he killed, and I said, "It's the same bull that you passed on Wednesday, 3 miles away, 2 days later."
No kidding.
And it's not like there's just a couple bulls in that area. There's a lot of moose there, and that was pretty crazy odds to do that. But you would have thought the way this bull was communicating that he was the king of that area and the biggest thing around, but he certainly was only like a 40-inch bull. And but just a great hunt, a great way to finish off, a week that with all that walking. And actually this is I want to play that cow bellow in there at the end. It was pretty.
Hey, that
Sounds just like Hal.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
That's a shorter, though. It's not that long whine, and Joel is really hepped on doing that. That he's a little bit different in the way that he calls. It's cool going with all you guys. You guys have all different, different ways of doing things. That they're all immensely effective. Obviously,
Well, all the cows don't sound the same,
right?
and all the bulls
Yeah, it's like
don't.
turkeys, the same thing.
Yeah.
But it's cool to see the different techniques work for everybody.
Jonah thinks that bull just had a thing for my cow call.
A couple of things about that, though. Going in on them like that, you enter their world. It's a rush to do that, isn't it? When they're getting in like that.
Gets a little. I tell my clients, I said it's going to get a little interesting here in a hurry.
And it can get up close and personal.
Yeah, that
love
hunter Dawn missed one on Monday morning. We see one 3.5 minutes out of the truck. I knew that bull was right there, but it happened so fast he never even really picked his gun up, and that was fine. Tuesday morning, walked in, same spot, because there was so many bulls in that one area, and Sure enough, that bull's right there. He's got his head on a cow's back, ready to get interesting. And no, I take that back. That was Monday morning. Tuesday morning, walked in. The bull was all alone up there on the hill. I grunted once, and he grunted back, and he come right in. And he ended up missing. And we winged him once, but nothing that would have hurt him. And then Thursday morning, he shot 4 times at 200, and I paced 216, but the old man said it was 232, but doesn't matter. He missed him, and then wasn't a mile later, that one came in, and he was 10 yards, if that. He was close, and he was coming hard. And Don said, them other 2 could have been bigger, but it doesn't matter. He says, I've had a picture in my head since I was a little boy of a Maine moose hunt, and that's how it ended. That's right
cool.
there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, he told me that too. He was.
Yeah.
It's just a great experience when you can call them in like that and.
Sometimes we have to put our egos aside because we want people to get like the biggest bull in the woods.
Because you think that's what everybody wants, but it's not.
Yeah, that's right.
A lot of them just want a good hunt, and it was a good hunt. We had a good week. I sometimes, my client care sometimes is a little bit lacking, I think, because Jenna Parks had said to me on Tuesday, she says, you might want to look at your client's feet. And I says to myself, well, if his feet are bothering him, I'd think he'd say something. So I walked into the tent and I says, hey, Don, how's them feet doing? He says, oh, all right. And he showed me, and he had skin flaps on his heels.
Moleskin.
So
that's what you need.
I didn't have any. I had duct tape. But
Lee.
I asked the old man, I says, you got
all
any
these
moleskin?
years of experience and you didn't have any moleskin?
My feet don't bother.
Yeah.
But so I asked the old man, I says, you got any moleskin? He says, yep. So we taped his flaps back onto his heels there.
Stuff's
He
like
never
miracle.
said a word.
Yep.
No, 4 days.
Nice.
Never said a word. Tough.
Hey, everyone. Hal here. You want to join the hunting club as soon as you can, because that's where you're going to get all my information. I'll have short film hunts, video tips, articles every month, and there's also a forum on there for you people to communicate. Maybe you'll meet a new hunting buddy on there. And the other thing is a question of the month. Submit a question, and I'll pick one every month to answer, and the winner's going to end up getting a decal for their truck. Join up at bigwoodsbucks.com. Hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, this is Joe. Just wanted to take a few minutes and talk a little bit about the lodge. It's Lake Parlin Lodge. We're up here just south of Jackman, and we're going to be doing some specials this deer season on our lodging. All the cabins are fully outfitted, modern, full kitchens, real comfortable accommodations. All of our packages are going to be Sunday to Sunday. We've got 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 2 bedrooms with lodge rooms. We've got what we call the mini lodge, which is a 5-bedroom, 5-bath for big groups. So check us out at lakeparlinlodge.com and check out our packages and come up and hunt the area. This is where the Big Woods Bucks live. Look forward to hearing from you.
The other thing about your hunt, Joe, that I was thinking about was patience. It's all part of a hunt. We talk about that a lot, about wanting to force things, but sometimes, how long did that bull stand there? If you'd have pushed him too much, he'd have just bolted because it's not natural. He wanted to.
From the time that I started calling, and from the first communication till the time he was dead was almost 4 hours. So that's a long hunt. It was the whole morning. And I told Hal that. He says it would have never lasted that long. He said I would have been in there sooner than that. Yeah. But the thing is that there was other moose around responding. So, you were thinking, well, and some of them, when you get to the point where there's one that's it's close by and you think that it's going to come in for sure, so then you're focused on that. And then that one doesn't pan. Well, it just kept going like that until with the wind in your favor, you can do a lot. If they can't smell you, you can fool them with the sounds. And
you got to know when to move and when not to move.
Yeah, but there was a time about halfway in on that stalk when we were heading in, and they had responded again. And as we started going in, and we couldn't be quiet anymore. The alders were too thick, so I just walked through and just scraping and just just grunting going in, and you just sound like a moose. That's what they hear every day. And it was one of the most memorable hunts I've ever had, just for the whole way it went down, and it was a lot of fun. And it was also, I learned not to be so generous in keeping hide on the Cape when I skin them out, because although it was not a big set of antlers, it was the hardest pack job I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah, it was 0.6 of a mile, and the head and cape were so heavy. I wish I could have weighed them. It had to have been 140 pounds or something. It was like carrying a person. And I would walk. Jonah was following me, and he had a load on his back. And I would walk like 5 or 10 yards and stop and have to sit there and rest. And I was bent right over, and at one point I fell down on my knees, and I was just sitting there laughing. I didn't think I'd ever get back up. I said, well, we're not going to get it to the truck. There's no other way, you can't drag it, So I finally, Jonah got behind me and helped me up. But it was the whole experience, that's for sure.
Only because I'd done that a few times. Couple that with the weight, with uneven ground, it complicates things. And then you got to get sliding through trees, and it makes it a pick and choose type thing.
Well, the funny thing is I did have to go through a section of woods probably before I got back out to the winter road itself. The section of woods was probably 300 yards or something. And that wasn't that bad because it was hard ground and it was kind of open. But that winter road was real swampy winter road. So every step you're squashing down when, you put that extra weight in your back and stuff. So it was fun though. It was a good day.
That's what I call, when I post on Facebook, I post purest form of hunting, because you think about all that you went through. The cat and mouse game that you played, that's hunting.
Yeah.
That's hunting.
That was fun. And the thing is it's funny, not everyone can shoot long range. Well, Joel shoots on a regular basis. He shoots out to 800 yards. And he had the weapon to do it. And then one of the other hunters over in Zone 5 was also had a gun set up that was for long range, and he shot one real close that actually charged him.
Wow.
After the first shot, the bull took off. They had it on phone video, but the bull charged him, and he fired the second shot as it was coming on him. He dropped. He was down on his knee, and he fired, and the bull rolled and landed in the ditch 10 feet from him.
Holy man.
Did the bull charge him to come at him, or just that he ran forward?
Yeah, I'll show you here the video in a bit, but no, it was facing him, and when he shot it, that thing took off running right at him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
Interesting. In a hurry.
Yeah.
I bet you the Ram Charger could have got in that road, Bill.
Yeah.
I bet it couldn't. So about the Ram Charger.
What about it?
For everyone out there
That's his baby.
listening, Hal is he's pretty protective of the Ram Charger.
Oh, yeah.
I swear he sleeps inside that thing
He
some
lets
nights
me
just
take
because
it
it's
wherever I
there.
want to go.
Yeah, there's a few people I allow to drive that, but damn few.
Yeah. If I keep on bad mouthing it, I probably won't be one of them, huh?
Probably won't.
No.
That's what I call the gray ghost.
Yeah.
I stealth up on a few big buck tracks of that before too. Some
Yeah.
remote places.
We've taken that on some long drives, too.
Yeah, I've had
The
a
hum of the tires put you to sleep.
few bucks have come out on their backs, laying on the hood of that
Yeah, I
thing
like
too.
that. I like that look.
That's funny. Last year you were laying on your back trying to get a buck on the hood.
Yeah, but he got on there.
You did.
Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the video.
Yeah.
Real.
Oh, yeah. I liked it, too.
No, it's important to have. I mean, you might get lucky and just get your moose out on a road that you don't have to worry about scratching something up, but it's good to have a vehicle set up for moose hunting if you're going up there.
Oh, absolutely. That Ram Charger makes a difference if you know what I mean. You couldn't go. We was down in on the boulevard 3 miles anyways, weren't we?
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't have shot. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have put my truck in there, and I wouldn't have packed a moose out that far.
You wouldn't have driven in there?
No. So without a buggy like that, you're really kind of limited to where you can go. I mean, I got rope, I got all the rigging. I mean, I can pull a moose quite a ways, but I still ain't gonna stave my truck down in some of them roads,
Well, so you got to get your knife out.
Yeah.
We had a last week on the second hunt there in Zone 8. Eric took his hunter and shot a nice bull. 53-incher opening morning. And so I didn't get the message till late because I got back into cell range. It was probably almost midday, saying they needed help. So I went to where they said they were, and I see my other truck there with a trailer on the back. I knew Jonah went to help them. I'm thinking, what did they do? Because the landowner in our area now is really fussy about four-wheelers and stuff. They don't want anything off-road that is not registered or a four-wheeler. They won't want any four-wheelers off-road. They're getting real picky about it. And so I was wondering what they had there. Well, it was Jonah brought us Willys in there. You want to talk about a rig for getting moose out.
Oh, yeah.
That was slick. He went across that cut. He drove the skid trails, but it was piles of slash, big piles of slash. And had he not drove in there, we would have been packing that one too. And it was tough walking. And he started out. Thank God it was downhill, but he started going down. And I have a sled that I built for putting moose in. If someone wants to mount them, so it saves the cape. And he started coming down that thing and was going over those slash piles, and he was just bouncing up in the air and coming out of the seat. And I couldn't believe it went over. That Willys will go anywhere.
What year is that thing?
Oh, it's a late 40s, I think. I want to say maybe 48.
Is it a 4-cylinder 3-speed?
Yeah, they all were.
Yeah. My dad had one. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, he'll give you every little detail about the thing. It's just a Jeep to me. He gets carried away with it, but he's been dying to pull a moose out with that thing. Yeah. And I told him, I said, the only problem now is that's our official moose rig.
Yeah,
I said, that's how we're getting them out from now on. That thing impressed me. That thing, and it didn't even have a decent set of tires. In fact, at one point, he rolled backwards. He's trying to get up a steep part of a hill there, coming up the backside of the cut, and he couldn't get the traction to get it going. So he would back up and go again and back up. Well, he backed up and rolled too far, and one of the tines went into his tire, and I swear it went in 2 inches, it looked like. And I said, oh, you just blew your tire. And he put it forward and pulled off of it, and that tire popped right back out and kept going. It didn't go through it.
Huh.
But having a rig, we're always, at least I am, I'm thinking, what would be, like a Toyota pickup or something that's lifted, got to have posi traction, something that you don't care about that you can get up in there.
Yeah.
I've looked around a little bit for something similar to the Ram Charger because it does work halfway decent. I'll give it.
Yeah.
It's probably hauled out 100 moose in its lifetime.
I think more than that.
Yeah. What year is that, Hal?
That's 82.
Yeah.
That's one thing, though, you just said was you can't care about it. If you're going to bring a rig and anything into the big woods, it's going to get hammered.
Yeah.
Some one way, shape, or form, it's going to.
Can't worry about the paint anyway.
No.
So last year, I've the truck I use. It's a 01 F250 Super Duty that I've had. I bought it new in 01, and the only thing I use that truck for is moose hunting and plowing, and it's in really good shape for the year and stuff. But I started losing my rockers and the cab corners on it last year, so I took it in and had a bunch of body work done and sprayed the cab and stuff just to preserve it because the frame was still good. Cost me $3,500 to do all that work to it, and a week later I was going down that Alder Road up in Zone 4.
I think Shanzy calls them old as a Jackman car wash, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We would, Joel, my hunter up there, he says, we got to take video of this road before we leave here because it's 2 miles of that.
Oh,
Really?
It's 2 miles. It's
All the drain in.
it's a nice spot. Yeah. And the only other hunter I saw back there was someone that was guiding for someone else. And I said, how'd you find this place? Hal told me about this place, and 4 years ago, I've been hunting here ever since.
Big mouth.
That's funny. It's the same way I found out about it, too.
Yeah.
But a nice spot. So did you do any, you hunted last week, right?
Yeah, I did. I had a client Zone 7 last week. Pascal from Massachusetts. Got family in Paris, France there. And got a heavy accent. Wicked nice guy. He's quite a chef, too. My cook didn't know that when he came in to camp that he was such a cook, and because she's nervous anyways, cooking for all them people, and she did fine. He was fine, but yeah, it was a good week. Monday was going to be the best day. Then the warm weather was going to come in. It was going to rain a little bit, and so I told him, I says, Monday's probably the best day, but we got all week. Don't hurry. So I started breakfast there around 5, and they made their lunch, and I was in no big hurry. And like any Zone 7 hunt around Rangeley, there's trucks and vehicles and people everywhere. And for some reason, these guys think that if they block off a road, that's going to help. Well, it ain't going to help with me because I ain't hunting the road. I give a crap about that road. If I'm headed there, I'm headed in, and then I'm going to walk in, and I'm going to get away from you. So let me go, or it just turns out to be a mess. So anyways, I got 4 or 5 different spots picked out, and I've hunted this country enough to know where we've left bulls last year, and we've seen them during the winter, and probably scouted a few this year that I hadn't seen before. So on the way out through, I checked 4 spots, and in every spot we saw things from people blocking the roads to people putting on moose drives.
That's the Swedish way, isn't it? They throw a dog in there with them.
Yeah, and because I can't leave it alone, I got to ask them how the moose drive's going. Then they just say, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. And the worst part about the moose drive was they were driving it out to the Greentop Road, which was covered with logging trucks and vehicles. Now, if they'd have spun that drive around and went back towards the back road, they'd have probably done all right. There was a big moose in there. I bet the problem is everybody and their brother had seen him, you know. So anyways, we go to these spots, and my client probably thinks I'm crazy because it's the first day of moose hunting. I ain't no hurry. We're going. So I headed in towards my camp there and see a little spot on the left, and there was vehicles parked there, and went up through this one road. There was not a truck at the end of. So I said, oh, we'll pick this one. I had never scouted that country before. So I told Pascal, I said, well, unfortunately for you, we're going to go on a little scouting mission this morning. So he laced his boots up, and we took off and found this big back cut. Actually, I cut a moose track right from the road, pretty good one. I picked at that track for a while, and I see this big back cut, and that moose worked his way around to that back cut, and I said, let's go down to the end of that back cut. So I started calling my way down through there about every 100 yards. I couldn't get no answer.
Just grunting? Or
No,
cow calling?
cow calling.
Yeah.
Just cow calling. And I get down to the end, and it goes right into this Alderton Road, and it's grown right in good. And it looks like a sheep pasture down through there with moose tracks. I'm like, oh, this is a pretty good spot. Not a human foot track anywhere. So this is where I want to be. So I walked down that Alderton Road probably 100 yards, and I took that shoulder blade and rubbed it on an alder tree, and he grunted 100 yards behind me. He let me walk by him. Then another one calls, and I'm like, son of a gun, them moose let me walk right by him. So I think they thought I was, leaving the country. So I turned around, and I got Pascal back to a good spot where he could shoot, because it was tight. If that moose came out, he was going to be right on top of us. And I hate to put a guy in that situation when they're that close, because you never know how they're going to react. So we snuck back a little bit. The first bull come in and winded us. He either winded us or saw us, because there was 4 of us, me, Pascal, and his friend Vale. And then I had Lorenda come up and help me. And so that one busted out. But the other one kept talking, so I got back a little further to a nice open spot, and I called a little bit. He was interested, and I took that shoulder blade, and I started racking a fir tree. Well, he marched right straight out. He didn't want another bull in that country, so I told him, I says, Pascal, he's coming out. I says, I'll let you know how big he is. And we got a video of it on a phone. His friends got the phone on, and the bull steps out there, and he turns, looks right at us at 50 yards, dead downwind. And I said to Pascal, I says, he's going to be, before we saw him, I said, he's going to be dead downwind. You're going to have just a few seconds to make up your mind. He comes out 50 yards, dead downwind, looks at us, and the first thing I see is his right palm is broke right in half and gone. I can't see it at that time, but his left palm is cracked from the top to the bottom, but it's still hanging on. and he's still 45 inches with half a paddle missing.
Wow.
And I said to Pascal, I said, that moose is 45. And then I backed up. I said, well, he's mid-40s, Pascal. If you want him, take him. Boom!
Usually how it goes.
Yeah, I said, all right. So he shot him a couple more times. And sure enough, he was just 44 3/4 inches. And he was missing half of his right paddle was gone. And then that left paddle was cracked right in half.
What do you think happened?
Fighting.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, I went back in on Friday because I knew there was 2 bulls in there, and I took a friend after my client had left on Wednesday. I took a friend on Friday, and I said, what are you looking for? He said, I've never shot a big one, but I'd like to have a big one. I said, well, we'll go in this one spot. So we went in there. Sure enough, there's a bigger one in there, and but I couldn't get him out of there that day. But I did get close on Friday. Was horrible. The wind, the last Friday of the second season was horrible. The wind was blowing a gale.
Yeah, it was bad.
I took my friend and one of his friends, and we walked the boots off in his friend there Friday. He wouldn't come back Saturday. So I took that guy again. Jamie's his name. I took Jamie on Saturday morning, and that was when I had them cows. I never... the chance of pulling a bull off in a cow is, I don't know. What is it? 50-50? Really? I mean, sometimes
less.
you can pull them. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably less than that. But I thought, sure, I could pull them. And I started pulling that one. And I told Hal the other day, that cow came right with that bull the whole way. She was coming with him and cut him off. Back over there.
Right.
We're not going to do this. So, and that happened twice that morning, and I couldn't straighten it out. And then the wind came up, and it snowed. So I knew a spot.
No, Saturday, right?
That was Saturday.
Yeah, it was snowing like crazy where I was
knew
too.
a spot on Deer Mountain that was holding a big bull because I had seen him. And
you and your specific names.
I know people are writing
Hey,
feverishly right
I'll
now.
tell you,
I'm glad it's over in your area.
I'll tell you right now, they go in there. Well, first
Yeah,
of all,
that's
you
zone.
get there.
That's zone 7. Everyone.
You get there. You get there, and they got some rocks across the road. You got to walk at least a mile before you see an antler rub anyway, So I figure if they got that in them, then they can go. But so we walk up in on top of the mountain. It's snowing, and there is moose sign everywhere. But the most sign was right in this one alder patch, about probably a mile and a half in. So we start working our way out about 4:30. Well, we were soaking wet, about froze, and come back to that alder patch, and I start to call, and I'm calling. I'd called all the way down through. I rubbed my antler a little bit. Nothing would answer. For some reason in the wind, they just don't like to talk. For me, anyways. And all of a sudden, I heard crack, crack, and an antler. You could hear his head, his antlers turn. And I looked at Jamie, and Jamie's pretty near deaf. And he looked at me, he goes, I heard that.
All proud of himself.
Oh, yeah. I said, geez, I think...
That sounds like hunting with me.
I said, I think he's right there. And he goes, if I heard him, he's right there. So I said, let's just be quiet and stand here. We stood in that one spot. I don't know how long it was before legal shooting, but it was a while. We had 15, 20 minutes, about froze. And we stood in that one spot. And at one point, I walked down the trail and called a little bit, trying to pull him out. That moose never moved a muscle.
Yep.
And finally, we ran out of daylight and walked out of there. But, he had never heard. Now, he's shot 3 moose over his lifetime. And he had never heard a cow and somebody call like that. And,
Right.
He has an electric call. That's what he uses. Doesn't use his mouth. But for me and that cow to go back and forth for an hour Saturday morning
That's
was
cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
And for somebody that's never seen it,
Right.
I think I would be pretty amazed at it, if I hadn't done it. And to me, it's like you get mad and you start calling her names, and you're like, oh, I'd like to get in there.
That seemed to be happened a lot both seasons for us. Was the antler raking was what would put them over the edge. That sealed the deal or got them coming more often than not.
Yeah.
Better than anything, even better than cow calling. And I was telling Hal I took some people there in the last couple of days after I'd finished my other hunt, and I called into this area just lightly raking going in and doing some cow calls. And I knew there was moose right there. I mean, there was so much sign in there. And I actually walked up on there was a doe that was walking down the trail towards us, and she stopped less than 10 yards in front of me. So we're just standing there looking at each other, and she finally turned to go away, and she was piebald. Her whole bottom half was white, like up halfway up her body. It was pretty cool. Yeah. But I got in there and called in, and we spent quite a bit of time, and I just got to this area where I thought they were going to be down below us, and the wind was blowing in our face. So I kind of got frustrated, and I took the antler. I had an antler, not a shoulder blade. I took the antler and I smashed it as hard as I could on a fir tree, and that's what got him going.
Really?
And he was close to us, and he came. You could hear him just crashing to us, and I said, "Get ready, get ready. This is it." Never saw him. He got like 30 yards, and all we could see was a tree shaking back and forth. And so I did that back to him. I grabbed a tree and shook it, and he never would come out. He never made another sound, never heard him again. We went after him. It was in a PCT area, prescription thinning. And you know how fun those are to walk in.
Oh, gosh.
And so we tried to go after him, but never saw him. But he's right there, and it happens a lot. Like what you said, you were 100 yards past him. Mm-hmm. You go right by them, and they're laying there or standing there, and until you do something that really gets them going, or what they want to hear.
Yeah.
A while ago we were talking about voices, like bulls' voices. Sometimes you can get fooled, but when you hear a big set of horns coming towards you, with the palms raking against, there is no question. I mean, if I was the shooter, my safety would be off. I wouldn't have the gun mounted, but I have it close so I don't breathe on the scope, and it's just a telltale sign that palm sound coming through the woods when they're big. Oh, God.
I heard one Monday morning there, that one that winded us. I don't think it was a big one. And that bull was right there grunting. He was close. We couldn't see him. And then he winded us or saw us or something through the trees and took off. And I said, not a big deal. He weren't a very big one anyways. And Pascal says, how do you know it wasn't a big one? I said, I didn't hear no antlers going through the woods. And he probably thought I was crazy, but I didn't, the where he was standing, he had to made some noise getting out of there,
Right.
So then we shot that other one. But
surprisingly, though, sometimes they are quiet.
Oh.
They can tiptoe in. I mean,
the old man always says, when they're ready to come out, step out, they're going to break a branch. And it's almost amazing that every time they get ready to step out, it's almost like they break something just so you know.
Right.
Well, the other bull knows they're coming. But you're right. They're so quiet and so big. It's amazing.
Almost as quiet as Hal is today.
Yeah.
You got a bad back. I got a massage therapist up the road, straighten you out.
That's what I need.
How'd you hurt your back, Hal?
Oh, moose hunting. How do you think? Yeah, moose don't drag as easy as a deer does.
Yeah.
While you're still awake, you got a good story to tell about yours. It's always about something. Hal makes things happen when there's nothing happening. It's just this one little thing that he picks up on. It amazes me every time. And I didn't get to go hunting.
Which one? Oh, this year?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
I got this text from him saying there's a good story about, and I was always wondering because I was at the desk. So,
I look forward to hearing that one. Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to go to the Big Woods Bucks website and join the hunting club. On there, you'll find short films of Hal's hunts, video tips and articles written by Hal, as well as a forum where you can go on there and talk with fellow hunters and learn a few things while you're at it. There's a lot of good stuff on there, and we think it's going to be a great place for hunters to just communicate, and talk about a common interest. Check us out at bigwoodsbucks.com.
I think we were talking about grunting and raking and cow calling and all that.
You was getting ready to tell the story about Danica's moose.
I was?
Because we haven't heard that story yet.
Oh, yeah.
Making something out of nothing.
I think
Unless it's like the typical Hal Blood story. Oh, I was walking down that Alderton Road there, and I called, and he come running out and stood there. And said, kill me, Hal. Yeah. Kill me.
Yeah, that's about it.
Doesn't always happen that way.
Well, no, wait. before he came running out, he ate a sandwich first.
Right.
Because there's a lot of sandwiches involved, too.
The bull came out, stood in the road, said, "Kill me." Hal said, "You'll have to come back. I got to eat my sandwich."
Oh, well, we went down Boulevard that day and that morning, first thing in the morning, and we had 3 different bulls going, but they were all cowed up. And I had the girl Danica, her mother, and her father, and her aunt. So we was an entourage. There's 5 of us. So usually I'd go down in after them, if they were with a cow, but couldn't do it with that many people. We tried once, but it ended up being getting down into an alder thicket. And we was pretty close to the bull. It was close, grunting pretty close, but he kept drifting with that cow and just couldn't get around to do anything. So we ended up spending the day calling in some spruce bogs, some open bogs. We'd sit there for an hour or so and call and listen and have a sandwich or a drink or whatever, and maybe even take a nap.
Maybe.
I forgot about the naps. Hal loves midday naps.
Yeah. You got to have a nap. I call them old man's naps now. So, actually, I was trying to be a little easy on the girl. She's 12, I don't want to drag her through everything, too hard of a job. So, about, 3:30, we were out in a bog and like a open bog calling, and we'd hung out there for a while, and I said, well, we better work our way back because we're probably 3 miles more back in there. And I said, I want to be back closer to the truck to set up the call for the evening because, to get out of the woods there, I didn't want to get anybody poking sticks in their eyes going out through the alders and stuff. So we were working our way back up this old road, and it's got ditches on both sides where they excavated, 30 years ago or something, and it's a screen of most of the way it's spruce and fir and hackmatack along the road. We come to this one spot. We're walking out easy, quiet there. And I said I wasn't going to call till I get out there. I just wanted to set up and call. So I was just going along easy. And I looked in the ditch on one side. I could see the ditch, and I could see mud in it. It was the water was muddied up. And not only that, the mud was like swirling around in circles. And there was bubbles coming up to the top. And I'm like, stop. I said, there's a moose pretty handy right here. That looked like the moose just stepped out of it. And we didn't hear nothing. We hadn't seen nothing, and we should have if we'd spooked one. So I got him stopped there, and I made a low cow call, and he instantly grunted. He'd crossed the road, and he was in the woods about, I don't think more than 100 yards. Might have been 75, but it was close. Then he started racking the brush, and I said, he's going to come, that guy. So I grunted once more, and I got them all organized with her on one side and her mother and aunt and the father on the other side of the road there where we could split them up so they could shoot. And so he was grunting very low, could barely hear him. And I just called one more time, and he stepped right out in the road. And I was looking in the woods because a lot of times they don't step into those roads. They're afraid of another bull beating them up or something or surprising them. So but anyways, he stepped right out there, and when he did, when I looked, I didn't see him step out, but he was standing there, and his head was turned a little bit, was looking kind of down towards us, but I didn't key in on the spread, really. I thought the spread was like 40 inches. I knew it was a tall rack, but I just couldn't, to me, it didn't appear to be overly wide, so and I never like to overestimate, so I said, well, that's a pretty good bull there. He's 40 inches anyway, and it's up to you, and no one said that, and her mother said yes, and her aunt said yes, and boom, she fired, and that was it. She did a good job. So you got to pay attention to stuff like that. If I had walked right by that mud and hadn't looked and seen that, then we would have never known that bull was around. So
probably the only one within 5 miles of that spot, too.
Probably.
I want to talk about the boulevard, not where it is, because I have my heart if I get drawn bringing my kid down in there.
Well, it's just a natural
describe
place.
The boulevard.
It's just a natural place for moose, and it's a good spot because it hasn't been cut for a long time, and it's good natural moose habitat. Everybody thinks some moose have to be in clear cuts. It's quite common that people want to hunt all the new cuts. That's where all the moose are. And it not to say that they're not a good place to hunt, but anytime you come around clear cuts, usually everybody else knows what's around them too, because that's where everybody goes and looks. But I prefer just to hunt in the woods and go to places where nobody goes. But it's just a just a natural place, a lot of bog and stuff. And I've never actually hunted it the second season because I've always gone the first, and it's boggy, and the moose the first season. There's quite a difference between our two seasons. The first one's the last week of September, basically, and then it skips a week, and then it's the second season's like second week of October, and the rut is coming on for the first season, and it's tapering off pretty hard on the second season. So you got to do some different things.
That middle week would be that would be the week, and
we can't hunt the best week. The peak of the rut's the first week of October, and that's the week that they don't have a season, so we have to just adapt to it. But natural spot,
It's funny you said that about the cuts and everyone being there because Eric's hunter on the second season, Eric went in there opening morning, and there's tons of cuts in there. There's old cuts and new cuts and everything in between, and he knew where he wanted to go, and it was back behind he had to walk up in the cut and go on the other side of it. He said there was 10 vehicles in there, and he had to pass and go around people and work his way in there, which I can't stand. I can't handle that. I see that many vehicles. I don't care what's on the other side. I just hate being around other vehicles. And he went in there and got around everyone, and as far as I know, that was the only bull shot in there all week. And there's a lot of moose in there, and they just weren't visible from the roads. You had to walk a little bit, and all those vehicles that were in there, none of them got out and walked.
So the funny thing is, during that moose week, somebody called and they were talking about they had a moose tag, and so I'm thinking it's Thursday. Why are they home already? And they were saying that there's no more moose, and then they said, well, we put 1,000 miles in the truck and hardly saw any moose, and I'm saying to myself,
I don't think I've ever seen so many big bulls as I did this year.
It was a year for big bulls.
Smashers,
Yeah.
and they tagged some smashers right here.
just put to bed that thing about there's no moose in Maine. That's crazy.
Do you think that part of that is because I was thinking the same thing. It seemed like a lot of the ones being killed and being seen there was a lot of mature bulls around. There wasn't as many as those 30 to 40, mid 40 inch.
Hardly saw any dinkers.
I wondered if that's because if that had something to do with the ticks and the age, the age group that the ticks have hit the last few years. So there's not as many as those because a lot of the calves were killed by the ticks.
Yeah, it's got to have something to do with it.
And speaking of that, Lee Cantor was at the tagging station in Jackman all week, and
that's the moose biologist.
Yeah, right. Sorry. So Lee was there when we brought Dennis, my second week hunter, in, and so they're checking them for ticks, and he said the tick numbers were down this year, which was good on what they were finding on moose, but he pulled off. It was a full size tick, and he had to take it because he couldn't tell a dog tick and a moose tick, an adult moose tick, look basically the same. But moose ticks this time of year are typically babies. They're real small. They're not full grown yet. So he was kind of curious as to why there would have been a full grown moose tick on a moose this time of year, or he said it could have been a dog tick, which they're not real common up in our neck of the woods. So he was taking that back to test it and see what it was or identify it properly. But it was a good thing that the tick numbers were down, it seemed like, on the moose that were coming in.
Yeah. They pulled some off these ones over here in Rangeley, but it was very few.
Yeah.
Minute. Under the armpit, say there was a couple on that bull and a couple on his back, and that was it. But they were all healthy. I mean, every moose we got that looked good.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, anybody that's home Thursday put 1,000 miles on ain't moose hunting.
Yeah.
No.
I kind of deduced that as the conversation, but I didn't bother.
But that's kind of funny because that's how a lot of people still think that's how you get the moose. But what are we, 39 years? Those moose have been hunted.
Something like that.
It'd take a pretty dumb species not to figure out eventually that them.
What was it 80 or 81 the first year? So it's not quite as 36, 37 years.
80 was the first year experimental, then they skipped a year, and then 82 I think was the first.
So 36 years of lottery.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the lottery drawing. I know there's a lot of people that they don't have any idea how it works. I see on some of the social media, people see all the moose pictures and they start, oh, where can I book one of these? So Maine has a lottery system for those that don't know. And I think the most important thing about it is a lot of people don't put in because they think they don't have a chance because it's long odds. But every year, Dennis, he's a non-resident. It's the second time he's ever put in, and he got picked as a non-resident. Right. Had a hunter last year, first year he ever put in, non-resident, got picked. And you have residents that have put in for 35 years and haven't got picked yet. So,
yep, it's like winning the lottery. That's it. But the odds aren't all that bad. I mean, one thing's for sure: if you don't apply and put in for it, then you ain't going to get drawn.
Well, then if you get drawn, you're going to have a world-class hunt. You get the chance to kill a beautiful bull.
You might, but you might not. You might ride around 1,000 miles.
That's
true. That's not a world-class hunt.
You know what gets me is, and I see it a lot, is by Wednesday, if they haven't seen anything, that I got to get back to work. Well, you knew when you drew the tag it was a week-long hunt. The chances of you tagging out Monday were slim. So why even bother? If you're not going to dedicate a week to it, and it's expensive, if you get a guide, a taxidermist, and a butcher, you're going to have at least $7,000, at least.
Yeah.
Into this. Plus, you got to take a week off. So if you ain't got $8,000 or $9,000 for this moose hunt, then
Yeah, and there's obviously a lot of people that do it on their own, and that's one of the nice things about Maine is that you can do that, and some are the first half hour of the season they got their moose, but whether you kill them in the first half hour or on the last day, typically you plan for being there for a week, so there's a lot of expense that goes into that, buying your food and
lodging,
and there's a lot of guys that get rigged up and do it. A lot of guys are getting good at it, and they are getting off the road and calling. I mean, you look online and see all the pictures. That is something that cracks me up that you see it every year. One of the things is we were talking about someone will put on Facebook, someone will put something out. They'll say, anyone know any good areas up in Zone 3? And there's always one person that'll comment and say, yep, go to such and such a road. I had a permit in 2003, and we saw 3 nice bulls in that road. It's no lie. They'll go back that many years and say they saw a couple moose in that road, so that's a good place to go.
Yeah. We had that die-off there. The tick die-off was the hardest about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's a lot harder to hunt now than it was then. I mean, there's still plenty of moose because reality is we had too many moose and something needed to be done, and Mother Nature takes over, and she took care of the moose for us and cut them back. So, but it makes it harder because the moose have lived through so many hunts now. They don't hang around the roads much. If you see one from a road, he happens to be crossing or something, he's probably going to be in a hurry when he sees a vehicle. Now, some people still get lucky and dumb luck and get one that way, but that's all it is, dumb luck. So if you want to rest your moose hunting experience on dumb luck, that's the way to do it. But if not, you got to get prepared. So
failing to prepare is preparing to fail.
Yeah, and
you have all that. That's so you.
I know. It's hard to be me.
You read that? You read that?
That's so.
No, that
like
if
that was written on a
investment
piece of
firm.
paper and set on my desk, I would say Dalty left that there.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of which, when's the best time to scout? Lots of people.
I do it all year round, but
Yeah,
that year, so there was 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 4 bulls that I know of that didn't get shot, that were all trophy bulls. The chance of them making the winter is pretty good. The chance of them being right around that area next year are pretty good. And the way I can explain that is last day, my client had mobility issues. He couldn't go that well. He was an older gentleman with cancer. Thank God he's still alive, old Jim. But last day, into this one of these spots I like, nobody's back in there. I was able to get the Jeep in there and got him set up in a Walmart chair or an LL Bean chair, whatever you want to set in, and called the Moose out. The Moose stuck his antlers out through the alders, and Jim jumped up, and his sling hit the side of the Jeep. And the Moose retracted back in. Just as he came out, he retracted right back in and took off. End of the season. Friday morning, I take that back. Second spot I went to on Friday morning. Pulled down in there, and there was a gentleman by the name of Larry, 65 years old, wearing a pair of Dickies and sneakers, and said, I need some help. I said, what do you need? He says, I shot a big bull down back there. I says, was it on the left side? He says, yeah. I says, well, sorry, we can't help you because you shot our moose. Anyways, we go down there, and he's got this smashing 54.5-inch bull on the ground with a double left palm, big fronts. I mean, just a smasher within 100 yards of where Jim had messed up on that one last year. And so right now in my head, if I was to pull a tag or have a client for Zone 7 next year, I know where those 4 bulls are. So I'll run out before the season starts, obviously, and see if I can see some signs where they've been racking or maybe put my eyes on them. I like to fly. I guess if I was going to a new area and I didn't know the area, I'd get a plane a few days before the season.
Yep.
And fly. Spend an hour or so in a plane with a good pilot and one cold morning and just look at them.
Yeah, I love that too. I didn't have my own plane in the water this year, so I flew with someone else before the season, and it obviously is a great way to scout and see, and it's encouraging too. Like when Matt went up, Matt flew Saturday morning before the hunt, and I think he said he counted around 70 that he saw.
No kidding.
Yep, and I flew the day before the hunt, and I saw 4 in a little over an hour. I saw 4 really nice shooters, probably 4 or 5 small ones, and cows and calves were more than anything. Probably 8 sets of cows and calves. So that was encouraging. I have a bunch of trail cameras. I always put them out. I love doing it, but it's more of a hobby and just seeing what's out there because rarely do we probably maybe 3 times have killed a bull that we had on camera. And one thing that I found this year that was really interesting is I had 12 cameras out, and they were spread across probably, say, a 6-mile area. And there was one bull, the biggest bull that I had on camera, had made it to like 4 or 5 of those cameras in a big area. Like it was really traveling. So the idea of putting a camera out and thinking you're going to go back and kill a certain bull, yeah, it might happen, but they cover some ground. And, to me, it's just fun seeing what's out there and getting pictures and stuff. But scouting wise, look for beat up trees and wallows. Yeah.
Just remember them old haunts. If you got a good moose spot, unless they go in there and cut, and
yeah, a lot of the places stay for years just as good as they were, but then other places, especially the older clear cuts, what I see now up north, the clear cuts from the 80s and 90s, they've gone by. Those fir where they like to stay in spruce with the maple whips, they've eaten them all out, and as the rest of it shaded, the spruce and fir is so tall that it's shading out the little hardwoods and any of the other plants they eat, so they abandon it. So it's the same with a deer. It's the same. The newer cuts are usually pretty good for a while, and then they peter out, and the moose will shift over and move into some other new cuts in their territory.
So on a little bit different subject, we were talking about road hunting a minute ago, and it made me think, did you guys see the new law this year that a person can shoot out of a vehicle?
Not out of one. You can lean on it. Yeah, you can lean over the vehicle, or you can lean your gun on the vehicle. Can't be loaded in the vehicle.
Yeah, I guess that's how it's written. I thought it was real. The key had to be off. I just thought it was interesting that they even changed that law.
Well, I think they changed it. I didn't change it for the moose hunt. They just changed it because it was kind of one of them obsolete laws, I think, back when there was more poaching and stuff going on. And they just didn't want people. They made the law too broad to begin with, where they considered if the vehicle if your gun was leaning against the tire of your truck and you were eating a sandwich on the tailgate, they considered that a loaded gun in the vehicle when it's really not. So they basically, the new law is just clarifying it that you can't shoot from the vehicle, but you can, if you're outside of it with your gun, you're all set to lean your gun there or rest on it or something.
I would think with the new carry law, it'd be hard to enforce. Everybody's got a loaded gun in their truck now. Not a rifle per se, but a handgun.
Yeah, but technically, even with a handgun, you could shoot a deer or a moose with it if you wanted to. But technically, if you got a loaded concealed weapon in your vehicle, you've got to unload it, get out, and load it back out.
Oh, if you're going to use it,
if you're going to use it to hunt with.
Yeah.
So, but anyways,
well, good.
So, anybody out there interested in applying for the Maine Moose hunt, you just go on the Maine Fish and Wildlife website, and they usually open it up to the lottery in January every year, and then they draw the winners. And I think the deadline to applications, it's an online application, till around May 15th, roughly. And then a month later, they draw them, and then you got a few months to prepare for your moose hunt. But
speaking of getting ready, if you think about, if you get drawn, put some thought into this. By the time you come up north here and rent a place to stay and feed yourself and spend all that time and money and gas and rigging, it might be not much more to hire a guide that lives here and knows the area real well and probably knows where there's a few smashing bulls around, and let them put you up and feed you and take care of you and treat it as a vacation and up your odds.
yeah, for sure. I mean, if you've never moose hunted or anything, don't think you're going to come up and just drive around and shoot one because your buddy told you he got one up there 20 years ago and it was easy. It isn't the way it works anymore. You gotta really put some time and effort into a moose hunt nowadays. But the rewards there. There's really trophy moose here in Maine, and Maine still has the densest population of moose in North America, so it's a good place to hunt. And if you're lucky, you'll get drawn.
All right. Enjoyed it today, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Good time.
Thanks for listening.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.